Hey everyone, today I want to go do something I haven't really seen anybody else do yet, and that's to go over the skills and perks, but not in the way of just describing the things. I actually spent the time and made videos of everything here so you could actually see and compare what's actually being done to the best of my ability for those things I can show you. There are a couple things that may not be displayed. I'll address those when we get to them, but here's a visual guide, I guess you could say, of the skills you can use for Stalker and Ambush. You'll also see on here that some of the skills have some prerequisite for the number of points you got to use before you can unlock the next tier. So be aware of that when you're also trying to figure out which skills you want to use for when you're out hunting. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so this is tier 0. This is where everybody's got to start at for the stalker skills. You have to put at least 1 point in here to be able to get anything moving forward. Here you have the level 1 and level 3 versions of the tracking skills where you can see the cone narrows. This is very helpful as you progress in the course of the game. Right here I am also backing up to show that there are the tracks on the map here as you're walking around. I want to back up here at this point so that you could see that they're there, and then they will drop out so that when I start applying the skill points here in a second, you'll see them pop back in. And there's the level 2. You can see it extended out. And level 3. I moved a little bit, but I think it's still fine. Now this helps out as far as when you're tracking around, because once you got to start getting your skill points in, you'll start seeing that tracking becomes much easier, like that there in the top left-hand corner with the level 3 skills. You can just kind of go straight line where you need to go and follow it, and it's quick. You can see far ahead. You can even see over the other side of hills, around hills, through trees and stuff like that when you got the long distance and everything, and the narrow cone just kind of like focuses you where you need to go. Otherwise, you're down there in the bottom right-hand corner with no points, and you could be lost tracking back and forth all over the place trying to find out where the next track is within that cone there, and it may not be directly centered like you would think it would be. It could be off to the left or the right from wherever it was last at, and you can't see it so far in advance that it makes it really difficult to find. All right, so tier 1 is the next level. You need to spend 1 skill point on the previous tier in tier 0 before you can open up any of these skills. The first skill is track knowledge, which reveals the gender ID of an animal if you see down there in the arrow right below the animal icon. And here you can see the difference between the footprints and vocal on the top with no points and on the bottom with a level 1 skill. Next is the level 2, which shows the animal size of the grouping. And here you can see a sampling of those types of groupings. As for the blood trails, it starts off looking like this up in the upper right corner with nothing, but once you get it, you can start seeing that it shows the health of an animal that you're tracking. This is good for finding out how long it's going to take before an animal drops as you're following along, because sometimes it could be a long time and you wouldn't know it. This is totally separate from the ambush skill, which I'll address later. They work separately from each other, so you'll have to have both if you want to see the animal's health from tracking or from them being shot. Level 3 adds in the weight with, you see the arrow there, that helps determine like a potential max weight of an animal. And disturbed vegetation is a track that is always present. It's just not something you can highlight, even though it's there. Later, when you get the disturbed vegetation skill, you can then select this as well to see what it is and track it easier. When you have this skill, you can see down there on the bottom right that it actually does help to mask your appearance to animals a little bit, kind of like if you're hiding in a bush or something, but this is out in the open. With the fog, I didn't realize that I actually had any footage of it, and I didn't think it worked, so therefore I didn't put anything into the rain one, but I would imagine it would work the exact same way with the hiding your appearance some from the animals. Okay, Hardened is a skill that I'm going to address later in the video when I do the impact resistance portion of it. This is tier 2 of the Stalker skills, which has a requirement of spending 5 skill points on the previous skills before you can unlock this tier. As you can see on the right hand side, this skill adds in the lines and arrows on the hunter mate. It's useful for on the map as well, because here you can see that there's no lines on the map. Once I put the skill point in, it does add these lines and arrows in, just like on the hunter mate. This is useful for when you're tracking an animal through large herd areas and you can't find the next track easily, it helps you to locate them and keep focus on the one you're doing, as well as when animals backtrack over their pathways, like they do a 180 and come back the same path, you can then determine which direction the track is going a little easier this way. On top of it, you can see that the dotted lines show the area between tracks that I did not find all the tracks that were down there, so it shows that there's a line there, but not everything's been located. Helpful also just so that you know that you might have missed something if you need it. Okay, this skill is going to be a little more tricky. I'm going to have overlapping videos here, but this is to address the sound as you see the arrow below there. I'm starting off by showing that there is the no skill points and I'm walking. I don't know if this is affecting areas like grass like you see up there in the upper right with by lakes and things like that or not. I thought it was where I'm walking right now on this grass. But as you see in this video here now, once I get to the level 1 perk point put into it, it doesn't seem like the audio is changing for the level 1, between no points and level 1. And I go through and I test everything from the prone crawling here, and next we're going to get to the crouch walking. So you can see that the audio seems to be about the same. All right, walking about the same. And then the same with running. So I don't know, again, if this was for the grass that you saw by the lake or if this is supposed to be in these kinds of areas. I thought it would be like right here. I kept the video going so that you could see that I went directly from there into the trees, and I'm adding the level 2 in as well. This is more noticeable. All right, the prone, you can see it's still making noise down there on the level 1, but the noise has been reduced on level 2. All these will be that way. They'll all be down by 1 point from what is shown on level 1 when you do level 2. So if nothing else, this is why it's important to at least get the first level of the skill to get to the second, right? So that you can walk through these trees and not spook animals as easily as if you didn't have the skill at all. Okay, again, here at the arrow, you'll see down there where the weather prediction skill comes into play. With the level 1, it'll cycle through 2 times for the same amount of time frame it puts in for the level 2 skill. As you see the countdown timer up there, they both have the same countdown. They both stop at the same time as far as the skills. But level 1 will cycle through twice because level 2 is given twice as much information. Now pay attention to the 1318 down there at the time and where I'm located at in relation to this island up here. I did this to kind of test out. Again, at 1454 down there, you see where I'm at. I'm going to try to come back here later and test this all out. So now you see at 1311, which is almost the same time, I'm on the island, and right here it's raining, even though it didn't indicate that when I did the test on the previous portion there, right? So again, I don't know if it's within the area you're at. But when I came back over here to test it out, the theory again at 1345, you could see down there that the weather kind of changed a little bit from the first prediction. At the appropriate 1454 time frame, I was almost back to where I was at when I first started the test, and it did start raining here. So there is a little bit of truth to the time frames of predictions, but it's not 100% accurate. It's kind of like predicting the weather in real life. Tier 3 of the skill trees requires that you spend 9 points on the previous skills somewhere before you can unlock this tier. With Innate Triangulation, I was able to get a pretty good test subject here. You can see, without the points, about how wide the audio cone is. Putting 1 skill point in was then able to narrow it, and I was still able to keep the same animal to get that determination. Unfortunately, this animal decided not to stick around, and she fled. So I had to go find something else, but I got the distance on her there. So later, I found an animal that was within rough distance. You could see the cone narrows. You could see that the range was about the same. There's the difference on the different levels of Innate Triangulation and how the cone narrows for the tracking an animal. Using that little eye icon down there, the half circle, this is to show your visibility to animals. Using this tree, I try to keep the same distancing going in with and without the points on it to show you how well visible you are with the Improvised Blind ability on. Endurance is focusing on this heart icon on your bottom left-hand corner of the HUD. Here I took 2 runs, one without the endurance skill in and one with the endurance skill in. The one on the top is going to disappear here in a little bit once it gets to the heartbeat beating really heavily and dark red and pretty much maxes out. You'll then see on the bottom portion of it here that I'm able to still go much further before the exact same thing happens. And the top should be about to cut out right about now. So you can see that with the endurance, you're able to run much further before your heart reaches that same level of stress on it. At the end of the run, I brought the scope to show you how difficult it is to aim with a high heartbeat. Here you can see how quickly you can recover with a point of endurance in there compared to it without. On the right hand side, you'll see that it stops pulsing much faster than on the left hand side where it's still beating. Tier 4 of this skill tree requires that you spend 13 points on previous skills before you can unlock this one. Here's Disturbed Vegetation with and without a skill point in it. I believe if you don't have track knowledge, you can still select these to track an animal. But once you do have track knowledge, you can go ahead and show the fur variations of the animal. Like weather prediction, wind prediction also has a timer on there showing you when it'll change and the direction and the strength of the wind. Unfortunately, I don't see any real difference between the skills because one's not having more time. They look like they're functioning the same, so I don't know what happens here between the two. Level 1 also says it's supposed to affect sound, but I can't really make too much of a determination here based upon that. But here you go. Startle Call, I actually enjoyed testing out. It worked. There we go, we got one out there. Get this, do it. Look, it stopped. I didn't get a good shot with it, but it stopped. Stand on that spot. Look at the map. Back to where I was in the tree stand. That was approximately 70, 71, maybe 75 yards. Somewhere around there. 70 to 75, I'd say, for that. So we know it can go at least that far. About 100 and so. Alright. Let's see if this will slow him down. Nope, didn't do anything that far out. Come on. Oh, they're coming by. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. 13. Alright, let's... It worked. So it looks like anything, at least probably within 75 yards, is probably going to be good for the whistle to stop them in their tracks and allow you to get your shot in, but you got to do it quick. So, but here's where it doesn't work. Okay, coming right for me. When an animal is fleeing from you. This is the ambush skill tree. The first level of it, like Stalker, requires you put at least 1 point in this tier 0 skill. The next portion is going to focus back all on this information right here with the range, the duration, and the traction strength, and the number of units. Here you can see I have 10 uses of the elk scent before I make my purchase. With level 1, once I buy it, it actually gives me twice the amount of the purchase, bringing me up to a total of 30. Here I tried to do the same thing with the boar scent, purchasing for the range. You see it does not change down there at all. I even tried to test out the see if there's some sort of indicator on screen. But between no points and adding all 4 in, nothing changed on any of the stats that you can visibly see. I did test it out here though. All right, 189 to 212 yards. That should be about the center point there. We'll try the whitetail scent. Should be at the range, at pretty much max range for the most part. Oh, I think it finally got to him. I think it finally got to him. They are all heading this way. As for the duration, I kind of wanted to speed that portion up, but you can see the time lapse here. Up in the upper left-hand corner, the deer did stick around for quite some time. I had them probably for about 5 minutes. The bottom right-hand one, I brought in a doe. She stuck around for about 14 minutes between me testing out the sprays here and there. This is only a small section of it, the same amount of time frame as the deer up at the top left-hand corner, but it actually went on much longer than what I've cut it down to right here. So these sprays do seem to affect keeping the animals around quite effectively. Like Stalker, Ambush Tier 1 does require you to spend one skill point before this is unlocked. It appears that Calm and Alert are the two default bits of information you get from an animal. But once you put a 1 point in, you also add in Attentive, Defensive, Nervous, and I think even Fleeing, but that may have been there already. This is like the Stalker Track Knowledge skill where it shows the health of the animal, but in this case, when you're visibly viewing it through a scope or a set of binoculars, as you can see here. It goes from the animal being at perfect health at 75 to 100%, but as it flees from a wound, you can see it dropping from 50 to 75, down to 25 to 50, and eventually 0 to 25. And here you can see level 3 adds in an approximate weight and trophy level of an animal. Here you can see on the position of the game level where I put my moose scent and my elk scent, which will affect what you see next. Okay, we have some moose down there. At least one. I'm going to try to use an elk scent to call it in, or to lure it in real quick, and we'll see if that works or not. Oh, hey, I think it did. That was the elk scent, and he's coming right on in. I think that in order for it to work, though, it has to be an equivalent size animal. I think the elk is like the size of a moose, and I think that's why that worked. And if you also noticed, there was two of them there. The bigger one didn't look like it was affected at all. The More The Merrier effects missions, which unfortunately they do not indicate what the rewards will be before you do them, so it's really hard to tell you what it'll be after. Just imagine doing the math of something that has $100 reward. With the increase here, you'd have $105. Tier 2 requires you spending 5 points on previous skills before this is unlocked. Here you can see the difference using the scope with and without the skill point. Like the sense, nothing visibly appeared to improve by putting the skill point in, but I did try to test this out. Well, the girls are interested, it looks like. They had about 150 out. The girls are almost 200 out. The girls are interested. The does. Yeah, the does are coming in. Oh, that got them all. That got all their attention. So, got a little bit closer. But, yeah, look, they're all coming in. For some reason, I didn't get the actual audio cue when I did this until later when I tried it again. This was probably one of my most fun tests of all. Here we're going to test out our health in regard to impact resistance and harden. Insta death. Oh, it does. Massive damage, but I survived. Wow. So there you go. Fall from a height, and you can live through it. May not be the best for you, but you can live through it. Helpful, I guess, falling off of a cliff you're climbing down, or driving an ATV and getting flung, or something along those lines. It may help you reduce so you don't instantly die necessarily, but you could see how much that took. Wow, that took a lot. So adding the hardened in looks like it did give you just a slight increase. So not much, but there you go. That's what hardened will do for you. Tier 3 requires you spending 9 skill points before you can unlock this level. As you can see here, this actually is very beneficial for when an animal is running through trees or something like that far away so you can keep track of it. But this is level 1 of tag. And with level 1 you can see the difference between no skill points put in and the 1 skill point and how long an animal stays highlighted. The upper left hand corner will disappear once it fades. And you can see how long it stays after the fact with the 1 skill point put in. Level 2, you can now highlight up to 3 animals. On the left hand side, you can see every time you select, it only gets 1, but on the right hand side, you can see you can get up to 3. Okay, something about the spotting 3 animals thing is, say I do this, right? And I get the 3 animals. If I try to come back and spot this one I checked before, it will not show me the details until the last one, or until I select something else. So like, now I can go over here and recheck this guy. I can get that one. Go over here, try it again, spot, come back here. It's not changing the details unless I pick something completely different. So that's a downfall of the spotting 3 animals. One of the benefits of trying to take two spotting outlines more than 2 is, like, say I want to try get these 2 animals. Okay, I'm going to zoom. I got the look on both of them, so I know which one to go to. I'll try here and here. So that way I'm not like confusing myself amongst any of the animals right there. So that's a good thing to help spot them. Look, I got both of them down too. So that's a benefit of it. So it's got its pluses and its minuses depending on how you want to use it. And this is a little bonus showing you could do the same thing with small game when they're hiding in the grass. Hello, moose. So here you can see that I was testing this out with a whitetail on the collar. So I just stuck to Layton to do all my filming, so I can't really show you anything other than what this clip may potentially bring. But I do know that when I was on Reventuli Coast, I could use the raccoon collar to call in a raccoon dog. Here, I'm leaving this as an example of what I think may work for calling in a moose, but I'm not 100% on it. But you can see what happened here. Okay, I don't know if that was coincidental or if that was because of a call, because that one moose was coming in over there, and when I did the call, I was trying to do it for the deer that was down there, but then this moose came in directly. But I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it was because they were already coming this direction or if it was from the call. Let's try a different caller. Um, got a mating call. I don't know if that was from deer collar or not, but it seems like maybe it might affect them. And the moose just listed a response again from that deer collar, so I think that that actually is affecting them. All right, let's see if I get a moose response as well. There we go. It's like clockwork on these things. So this is definitely calling in another animal, give it a vocal call. That skill. Pack mule skill only affects how much your character can carry in their inventory. It does not affect the backpacks associated with it. Here's the default no points with the inventory and the backpacks, compared to 1 point with the inventory and the backpacks. Level 4 requires you to spend 13 skill points on previous skills before this tier is unlocked. Testing seems to indicate you actually have to be at the lookout point, but here's the default map before I started this all out. Now watch what happens. Oh, there we go. You have to be like right up on top of it. Wow. So it's got a massive cooldown, 17 or 1800 or, yeah, 1800 seconds. So look at that. It's adding rest zones discovered. Let's see what it shows on the map. Look at that. It popped a few of them in around here. And we have some drinking zones discovered and another half-hour reset started. Let's see what we got here. Drinking zones. Look at that. Popping into play down there. And it does. So let's see. We added in another drink zone. A couple more feed zones. Logging out, logging back in is probably the quickest way to do it. If you like take an ATV over here like I did. But looks like you can help find them pretty quickly this way with that skill. And yet even more zones are added in here. Checking it out, it does look like the range going around the tower is approximately out to about 500 yards. It looks like you could do this as many times as you need to until you find everything in the vicinity. So it's pretty useful skill, especially when they do like population resets and things like that. So that could potentially help if you go around your reserves and use that ability for that. I tested Hill Caller out while I was sitting on top of a tripod. Here's the results. And he respawns 179 to 240 yards out, and that is beyond the 164 yard range it says for the bleak collar, and it's getting the moose to respond to it. So that's taking care of hill collar and who's deer, as well as fatal attraction. And here you can see the difference in the store cost between the default and the one skill point of Haggle. So that was an awful lot to try to condense down and streamline to make it so it didn't take too long to get through. But I hope it was helpful for you guys to see the skills instead of just being explained to them what they are. This way you can make your own informed decision on what you feel is best for you, your hunting style, and how you want to proceed out when you're going out into the world. If you're interested, though, this is what I ended up choosing was all these skills right here. The locate tracks, track knowledge, the connect the dots, soft feet, innate triangulation, improvised blind, endurance, disturb vegetation, and startle call for my stalker skills. The reason I chose these startle call and disturb vegetation is because as opposed to some others in the ambush skill, because this does cost a lot to get up here, is that I have found a lot of my animals using the disturbed vegetation that have the rare fur types, and I've tracked them down for that way. So that's what's important to me. And after testing out the Startle Call, I actually thought that was kind of cool to use. So whenever I'm doing tree stand hunting, I think I'm going to use this since I'm not necessarily going to be using the range so much depending on where I'm located at. I might still have it, but I can then switch between them as I desire. As for the ambusher skills, I chose Scent Tinker with 1 point in it. I chose all 3 points in spotting knowledge, but because I couldn't move on to tier 2 yet until I get spent 1 more point, I ended up choosing to do the More The Merrier because to me I felt like getting a little bit more money from complete missions was more important than scent related skills when I don't use the scent all that often. Getting that extra point opened up tier 2, I then selected sight spotting and I put 1 point in the fatal attraction. As you can see, after that I have everything else locked because at this point between the stalker skills and the skills I chose here, I can't choose anything else. I would love to have honestly been able to get at least the 1 level in tag and pack mule. And honestly, I would really have liked to get the keen eye. But because of the requirements of having 9 skill points for this tier and then another up to 13 to this one, that's just way too many skill points to spend, and I ran out at this point. It could have been even nice to have a second level of fatal attraction, but it just can't between the skills. So that's an example of why you've got to be very aware of what you're picking and choosing for yourself based upon the requirements for the skill levels. So I hope this video helped all you guys out so that you can use it to the best of your ability when you're going out hunting. So again, take care everyone. God bless. Bye.